This is the Tech Addicts Podcast.
This week, Amazon might be getting voice control for gaming. New set of headphones from Anker. Pixel 6a impresses with its build quality. Plex and LastPass hacked. And YouTube doing a podcast. Hello and welcome to this, the Tech Addicts Podcast. I am Gareth Miles, the superb host who you'll hate by the end of the show, and this is Ted Salmon, who you'll grow to love over the course of the show. How are you, Ted?
We got, hello, I'm alright, thank you. We got a comment last night about the length of the last show. Over 2 hours, but it wasn't a record. 2 hours 24 is our record, and it was only 2 hours 15 last time.
Oh dear. Well, you know what can we do? We could edit stuff out if people are really annoyed.
No, it was all right because they weren't complaining. They were just. I think it's a bit of amusement, really. It's like heading towards Leo Laporte territory. And sitting there for 3 hours and 4 hours of podcasting.
Well, it's nice to have something in common with Leo Laporte, at least one thing.
If it's not the bank balance.
True. Or the knowledge.
Yes. Actually, he gets a lot of bad press in our circles, but I actually quite like watching it now and again. Not every week relentlessly, but now and again. I think he's quite entertaining, and he's quite rude though. He talks over people.
He does, yeah. It's a hard. Yeah, well, it is a hard thing to do, doing tech podcasts and stuff like that, because people do expect you to be a wee bit of an expert on absolutely bloody everything. Yeah. You know, going from old retro tech all the way up to the most modern graphics cards, taking in mobile phones and tablets, and even like last week we talked about overhead projectors, to which we have virtually no idea of the actual technical innards that are in there, but we had a stab, and we can kind of just make it up and make us sound like we know what we're talking about. But then someone out there always knows that we're full of
But the point is though that we are upfront about the fact that we're kind of not really expert in anything. It's like we just kind of trail through the news almost, and whatever's of interest to us, we hope might be of interest to someone listening. And people can always hit the fast forward button, can't they?
They can do, and any advice that we give, there is always really the disclaimer that it might kill you.
Yes, keep away from it.
All right.
Well, weather report from North Wales is still too warm for me, but certainly much better than it was. Overcast today, 21 degrees. Your turn.
Well, it's sitting at 20 degrees, absolutely no wind, decent enough cloud coverage, but it's bright enough outside. I'm a wee bit uncomfortable, just a wee bit, not terribly, but could be better.
I've got my fan on, so sorry about the noise, everyone, but stuff you.
All my fans have disappeared off up into other bedrooms in the house, so I'm in the most well-insulated room in the house, where I sometimes work from home as well, with 2 skylights open and absolutely no through draft.
That is the problem, isn't it? When there's no movement of air at all, it just makes it much worse.
Uh-huh.
But there you go.
Well, if we do the armpit test, bit moist.
Ooh.
Is that you? Wow. All right.
Yes.
Well, moving into feedback and contributions, Mr. Ian Barton, who I'm sure does not smell like us at all, has dropped in on Starlink. Apparently Starlink have dropped their prices to their subscription. It's down from £80 a month to £75. Not a huge saving, but still a saving nonetheless. Still expensive, he claims. But if you live in the middle of nowhere and have spotty 4G and BT can only provide 3 megabits per second, then it's worth it. Okay, so yeah, Ted, obviously you live in a strange kind of weird way. Did this appeal to you at £75 a month?
I breathe oddly, you mean?
and smell a bit of formaldehyde.
And my heart kind of pumps in a different rotation to other ordinary people, real people. I did think about this when Ian first talked about it on the show. I brought the news to us. And the thing that put me off mainly, well, two things. Firstly, because I live in this static home most of the time, the dish is going to be ultimately nickable. And secondly, the setup costs and the running costs. You know, it's just an expensive project. Well, actually, there's a news item about Starlink. Later on, we'll come back to it. But the costings of it to set up, well, he was talking about £500 and £600 to get set up at the time. It may be different now. And you've got to go on a waiting list. It's like buying a OnePlus phone, for goodness sake, or these days a nothing phone. And the reason they do that, if you remember, so Ian told us, was because they do a survey of where you live and they want to make sure that it's going to work properly there or something. So, yeah.
Oh, right, okay. So Ian must have been through that. He's sat on the list and Elon has personally stamped his name as approved.
Yeah, he did. And he had to wait for a couple of months, I think, to get it. And then it was expensive, and it's expensive every month. But Ian lives in a farm in the middle of nowhere, and he's quite right. It's been absolutely fantastic for him. Really, really good speeds and great. And it'll be good here. However, my burning need has gone, as we discussed last time, with the ditching of Vodafone and the embracement of EE, and it's just so much better than it was before. But let's not do that one again.
No, that's not. But we could easily move quite into your experience of the Nokia T10 recently.
Oh yeah, I was saying on the last show that I really wished the T10 had been around when we were buying my mum a tablet, and because this would have been perfect. But the one that's being sold on the Nokia website for £129 or £149 for the 4G version is 32 gigs of storage and 3 gigs of RAM. And although that probably wouldn't make a huge difference to the likes of my mum, who using it for surfing the web and social media and stuff, it's just a shame. So I thought I would write to Nokia and say to them, right, when are you bringing the 64 gigabyte, 4 gigabyte version to the UK? And they replied, as of now, there is no information regarding when or if the Nokia T10 64.4 version will be available in the UK market. You'd think they were like in charge of what they were doing, wouldn't it? But it seems like they had to go and ask someone else outside of Nokia if that's going to happen. And it's just a shame. I think for another £20, it'll be worth getting the slightly better spec'd one.
I suppose if you think about maybe the company setup, there's Nokia, the brand, and then there's the kind of the sourcing company that goes and finds a tablet somewhere or goes and gets it built by a particular factory, and they have to ask the foreman who's standing at the end of the line, "You're going to be doing this in a 4x6 or 4x64?"
He's on a tea break.
No, I'll have to wait until tomorrow. They're all out on strike. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the other option is that you could go with the Lenovo Tab P11 Plus or just the regular P11, because after all of our slagging and mocking of, well, Lenovo and Motorola over the last number of years, they actually dumped out an update to Android 12, and I just thought I'd have a go on, was it Monday or Tuesday night? I hit the button to see if an update would come, and it did. I was dumbfounded. It took forever, but it downloaded, installed through Lenovo's own software update mechanism that they have inside the tablet, as opposed to Google's over-the-air thing. Yeah. And to be honest, I've noticed it seems to be quite good. It improves the tablet in certain ways. I have a security camera on my tablet right now, and I've started using it to be able to monitor what's happening outside the house. Up until this update, even on my Pixel 6 Pro, the security tablet times out after a couple of minutes, but somehow the Lenovo manages to keep that hook in there, and it just streams. and I've been watching it all morning, being able to see magpies in the garden, my wife leaving with my son, that person walking past the house with they're having a shit. they're not the person with their dog.
I thought you meant your wife.
No, he's letting his dog crap at the end of my drive.
Put some barbed wire, electrified barbed wire down there.
Hang on a second. Here, you better clean that up. You clean that up or I'll block your eyes.
So aggressive.
Sorry.
You're so aggressive. Is that what people in Northern Ireland are like? You've been socialised into being really aggressive all the time.
Yeah, he's doing it.
I would never say that to anyone.
Yeah, he's doing it. Right, okay. Have to remember to edit that out. Or maybe I'll leave it in so that people don't mess with me.
Black your eye.
Black
really
in.
Funny. Very, very aggressive.
Well, he's cleaned it up. That's good to see. I'm not going to report him to the council. What did he clean it up with? If he wasn't going to do. Maybe he does have some bags and just doesn't want to have to do it. I live in a nice area, so I find that people are just too posh to pick up their dogs' offerings, and the pavements are pretty nasty. Whereas you go up into one of the community housing estates or something like that, the footpaths are clean because people do it. It's the snobbish people that I just want to blacken their eyes. Sorry.
So were you able to see all of that and record it on your system that you were just talking about?
Yeah, I've got it recorded, but I know I'll be able to recognise him by his dog. That black Labrador seems like a fairly fun little pup. Yeah. Right. Okay. So yes, the Android tablet has had this. I did notice that there was a small problem with it leaping from having a mesh system running, coming from the house out to here. It didn't just quite easily pass over to the satellite on the mesh system, and I was sitting looking at it going, I don't have Wi-Fi connection this morning. But I turned it off and on again, and it jumped right onto it, so I'll have to have a play with that. But Ted, you noticed having seen me put this obviously in the show notes. You went and did a wee bit of research and saw that people on Reddit are complaining that they're having troubles on bricking devices and stuff.
They're talking about boot looping and people claiming that they are having all sorts of difficulties, and that they wish that they could downgrade again to Android 11 and blah blah blah. But as we said just now before we recorded, that whenever you go to Reddit, if you search on anything in Reddit, you're just going to get people that are the naysayers, the people complaining, the negative of everything. Because the simple truth is that if you're satisfied, you're much less likely to go to somewhere like Reddit and start saying, "Oh yeah, I'm satisfied, it's great." You're more likely to go there to complain, aren't you? So it needs to be kept in proportion, I think.
Oh yeah, it is. I'm sure it's just a few people, because it does take a huge amount of time, and they might have just got bored and thought, hang on a second, this has crashed, and tried to turn it on or turn it off or whatever halfway through the update, and that's bricked it. It did take a decent amount of time, but then an Android update generally does. And I've seen Mr. Litchfield on Twitter giving off about, and I joined him as well, where the Pixel Pro has had a 1.28 megabyte update, and it's taken about 45 minutes to download and apply.
Yeah, hour and a half was the record.
Wow.
And it was, and I had the same thing here as well on my Pixel. For some reason, the Pixel updates I think they take the longest of anyone. And we did try and analyse that, and I can't remember what we came up with now, but yes, they take a long time.
They do. Long story short. All right, let's move into the news. First up, we have the Microsoft are not sending out USB sticks with the Microsoft logo on it. It is, in fact, a bunch of scammers. Ted, what exactly is happening here? Did you receive one?
No, I didn't receive one, but apparently there's a fraudulent company that was sending out USB sticks with Microsoft logo on them, packaging all looking like it's all genuine, and it's just a scam because the thing is full of malware and all sorts of crap stuff that's going to attack your system as soon as you put it in. But because it looks so authentic, it looks like a free version of Office 365, I gather. And so you think, oh yeah, that's lovely, I got that through the post, Microsoft must love me, and you put it in your computer and that's it, you're away and you've been hacked and you're done. So yeah, a general warning, I think, that if you do get one in the post, I think it was probably in America this was happening, not so much the UK, but watch out for that one.
Yeah, I suppose, well, in a digital age, this sort of thing is what they've moved away from entirely. So if someone is trying to send you something with physical media, no way.
But you see, someone like my mum, for example, who would really, she liked the old days when it was to do with you buy your copy of Microsoft Word and you put it in your computer and you install it and that's it, it's yours. She's not into this Microsoft 365 thing and paying monthly. And she's the kind of person who, if they sent it to her, if she wasn't aware of these issues, which she is, because I talked to her about it, she might well put it in. So maybe older people that like doing things the older ways.
Yeah. Well, there's all kinds of scammers out there, and this is just it's a new level that they're going to, because even if you were to get one of these, you could hold on to it for a few years, and it might be worth some money as a collector's item.
Yes,
it's exceptionally well made.
You and your your squirreling away of things. Keep the cellophane on it. Don't open it.
Yeah. All right, so the Pixel 6a has been released, and it's gone to Jerry Rig Everything's YouTube channel, and he's done his durability test, and it turned out that it's actually quite well made. That's surprising.
Yeah, if you go to the 5 minutes 10 seconds in the video is where he does the bend test, which was the bit that I was most interested in. And when he bends it, you can actually see the body move slightly away from the screen. But when he bends it back, it kind of pops back into place, and he was concluding that actually that's quite good, that nothing broke, and it did kind of return to what it should be. So yeah, he was kind of generally quite full of praise for the build quality of a cheaper Pixel, for sure.
Yeah, it's good to hear. I don't remember seeing the Pixel 6 or the Pixel 6 Pro videos. Were they similar? Are they just a well-built bunch of devices, or is this a special one?
I can't remember.
Okay.
Homework. Homework has not been done. Unexpected questions not allowed.
Fair enough.
I think that the general consensus from watching this video was that the 6 and the 6 Pro were quite good, and he was kind of half expecting the 6A cheaper one to be not so good, and he was surprised that it actually was good. I think that's the general idea.
Yeah. After you put this in the show notes, I saw it pop up on my Google News feed, and I think some other outfit had covered the article, and they'd said that it tested better than something that he'd done just beforehand, or it might have been a Samsung or something like that. Maybe I could go onto the video and have a look and see what the previous thing he did was.
Okay.
That new OnePlus, I suppose, was...
Or it might have been the Nothing phone, if it's that recent.
Could be, yeah. That was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it might have been. But yeah, it fares better.
I didn't watch that either. No.
All you need is just to know whether or not it does well. You don't need to sit through the entire video, do you?
No, yeah. The 6A though, I'm quite encouraged. I've got the 6A in front of me. It's taking a back seat at the moment because I'm trying to do a Samsung week. But I do like the 6A. Just wish it had Qi charging. But then if it had Qi charging, it would be more expensive, wouldn't it? And they're down to £349 now, which in some outlets, if you pick it on the right day.
See, on the note of Qi charging, I've noticed that my Pixel 6 Pro, I have a Qi charging stand on my desk from STM, and it doesn't quite work very well because of the camera module. It's just that wee bit too tall.
Yeah,
and it pushes it out a wee bit.
Yeah.
But if I put it on in a particular way, I can get it to start charging, but I can't just sort of throw it on.
Some of them are like that, aren't they? You've got to be a bit... some of them are just fussy. It depends on how many coils they've got. So, missus. But I've got one that's got 5 coils across the whole of the pad, and it doesn't matter where you put it down, what angle, direction, anything. It just always works. So your back camera lump could just be sitting off the back, and it could be floating in midair, and it'll still work. But some of the cheaper ones, I think, like those bedside stands, they can be a bit hit and miss.
Yeah. It's a strange thing, but I guess everything has warts and issues and problems and this and that and the other.
Carbuncles.
Sorry?
Warts and carbuncles. Yes, carry on.
Oh, okay. Carbuncles. Yeah, all right. So moving on, I can't remember where we are. Oh, yes, Google are refusing to reinstate a man's account after he took pictures of his son's groin for medical reasons. Now, obviously, these backed up to Google Photos in the cloud, and the scanner that they have that checks for child abuse pictures flagged them, and they've frozen his account, and they're refusing to unfreeze it, which is another of these difficult situations that, where do you draw the line? It is a bit strange that Google is refusing to reinstate it. You could understand it happening and then it being explained and an understanding being reached. However, Google is sticking to their guns on this. Is there any particular reason why?
Because it doesn't open the gate to other people claiming similar but using it for abuse. That they say no, we put a lot. The thing about this story is, though, that I think that the bloke has been a bit naive. I think that if a doctor, which is what happened in this case, a doctor said to you, we're in the middle of COVID and whatever, it'll be much quicker if you just send me a photograph of the offending problem and just take a photograph. Now, at that point, I would be saying to myself, I need to be careful with this. I need to take a photograph, not let it be backed up anywhere, because of exactly this problem. I think that there's just a level of naivety where people are just not aware. But then if you're not tech savvy, I suppose, perhaps you wouldn't be aware. Maybe this bloke didn't even know that his phone backed up automatically photos to Google. I don't know. But I just think that it's, Google's stance is just about saying, don't try this one on because you've got no way out. Yeah.
Well, it does sound like a pretty difficult problem to have, but it's something that, a blanket policy is not going to sort out, but a bit of one-to-one customer support does sort out, and where you can sit down and actually talk to someone about something this serious. It can get sorted out. I do remember quite recently seeing a photo on Twitter that someone had put up. It was a girl just doing a face of shock, embarrassment, and can you believe I've done this? Where she said she borrowed a phone from her mother, and she didn't realise that all of the photographs that she took for the period that she was using it backed up to her mother's Google Photos account. And she just said all of them. Now, from her facial expression, I imagine there was something quite sensitive there that she didn't really want her mother to be seeing.
Okay.
I don't know what kind of industry that she was working in, but it just made me think that's quite funny, and that could be very embarrassing.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this, Google can quite easily take one of their customer relations persons and go and sit down and talk to the person, because it's not like a something that happens all the time. It's one thing that can be sorted out with two people talking.
But it might become something that happens all the time if they don't take a hard line on it. I can see it from both sides. because it would take lots of resources, presumably for this person's free Google account. Suddenly Google have got to spend money investigating it, putting people in rooms together, getting a witness testimony from the doctor who asked for it, blah blah blah, all the way down, where the simplest thing to do is just say, no, we're not doing this, because the next person that comes along who is doing naughty things, taking photographs of children, will claim the same thing, or try to. They'll say, well, you did it for matey last month, so, I want to have a sit-down meeting as well with you.
Well, it's one thing that they can pass it to the police. The police have units that deal with this sort of thing.
Yeah,
they have people who sit down and examine and say, okay, this is child abuse and this isn't. And they can go back to Google and say, no, you're all right. So it would just be a temporary ban on the person, not just point back refusing and saying, no, this is a policy that we have. Tough.
Fair point, yeah.
It's going to be the point where if you're standing beside a swimming pool taking a picture of your child maybe swimming, and that goes up, is that going to be flagged at some stage whenever they're like, oh, well, it's getting a bit icky? Where, we've got someone who doesn't have any children who's hanging out by a pool taking pictures of the children.
It's a really tricky area, isn't it? Because the same thing would apply with me. Is that I wouldn't take if there was children swimming in a pool, whether they were mine or not, I wouldn't be taking a camera there.
No,
because of that very risk. The other day, in my static park, there was a family next door, the 2 doors down, who had children coming to visit because it's school holidays and all the rest of it, and these little girls were about, I don't know, 7 or 8, and I was just really, really cautious about being careful what I said to them, my eye contact even. I was very aware that I was even watching where my eyes were, so that the grandmother who was looking after them could see that I wasn't looking inappropriately at these girls. And it's a dreadful thing to have to start to think through to yourself, but that's what people have to do, I think, which brings us back to this bloke who I think has been a bit naive.
Well, yeah, no, it is a thing. As a bloke who has a child, if you're hanging around the park, you have to somehow be able to point out to people, I'm with my son that's over there. Yeah. See, that's him. Yeah. It's worth even having some sort of line that's attached to your child, because people do look at you. It's something that I don't want to be sexist in any way, but women don't have to deal with this problem. My wife doesn't feel this, but I do whenever I take my son to the park. And on the other hand, it also feels like I'm a single dad taking my son to the park as well. I've got him for the weekend, so this is what I'm doing. And women are kind of going, are you available? Oh. Not that they're swarming around me or anything, but it's like, I'll just show off my wedding ring here. No, my wife's at home or at the hairdresser or something like that.
Yeah.
But
it is really tricky though. How we have to we've ended up having to behave because of the world in which we live now. Very sad.
Yeah.
I don't feel free to be able to just behave, because 30 years ago, those kids, you'd just be larking about with them, and pushing one on a swing, for example, walking past the kid who wants to be going higher on a swing, you just push their back. But you wouldn't dare do that now. You just keep away from them.
Yeah.
Very sad.
They're toxic. Children are toxic.
Society is toxic.
Stay away from them. Unless you've got your own one, play with it.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So Acer have a Chromebook called the Vero 514, and it's made of 30% post-customer recycled materials. Which is quite interesting. It has a rather interesting colour balance to it as well, where it's not quite grey. It's got sort of flecks of different colour through it, and it's got a strange texture to it. But I guess that texture would probably help it be less slippy in the long run.
Yeah, I watched the video, Robbie's video, over at Chrome Unboxed, and he was quite enthused about it. and I watched him undoing it all and going through the packaging, and they've even made sure that the box it comes in can be reused. You can reshape it, and like an origami thing, it turns into a storage box to be used for something else. And he said his conclusion was that the thing, you're expecting it to be compromised left, right and centre, but actually it's not. It's really well spec'd, it's got good components. The only downside he could find was that the speakers were not very good. But yeah, 30% of recycled everything. It's a good eco move, I think, by the company, and kudos to them.
It is, but they're doing this in, well, I suppose limited amounts because of probably the available material. There's not enough recycled material or something for them to be able to build the entire line and pump out thousands and thousands of these, or become their new direction that they're taking the whole company in. It's a unique product, isn't it? Or there's
what they need is a fishing boat. They'll find enough then.
Looking through some of the pictures, the E and the R are in yellow.
Yeah, he spoke about that, because I didn't quite understand what he meant, but he said that they were round the other way. He said that on an early prototype of this, the E and the R were actually the wrong way round or something. I didn't quite get what he said. Did you watch the video?
No, I've only looked at the Android Authority article on it.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that. I'll have to watch it again.
They're the right way round on this. It's QWERTY.
Yeah, he did conclude that actually it was the right way round, but he said something about previously it had been the wrong way round, and there was some reason why they were coloured yellow. I can't remember what he said. No, I do, but I couldn't understand what he said.
Yeah. I was even looking to see if the V and the O were maybe yellow as well, because it's, I don't know, recyclable, and it's called the Vero, but bizarre. Maybe they just popped them off another laptop that had them as yellow.
They had a tin of yellow paint they wanted to recycle.
It's a Renault 5 with a different door on it or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the Storm 2 from Shargeek. This is an interesting looking, 25,000 milliamp hour power bank battery thing that does up to 100 watts of charging. Oh, I like the look of this. You can see the innards, and it's got a wee display that displays displayable stuff. And it looks pretty funky. What's special about this, Mr. T?
Nothing really, except exactly what you just said, which is it's really cool because you can see through it. It's got a transparent casing, led by nothing phone, no doubt. It's also been led by the Anchor unit that we spoke about last week, which looks very similar in many ways, except the Anchor one's not see-through. And it's got this OLED display, if you remember, which tells you what's going on with what ports. It's got 100 watt pass-through, as you say. It's a very capable little unit, but it's stupid money, isn't it? The same as the Anchor one. Yeah. Isn't this $200 and something?
$230, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Anchor one was 139 quid, but this one is just pricing itself out of contention, I think, because it's just a gimmick, because you can see through it, and it's got a display.
Yeah, I'm noticing on the side it's got DC in and out alongside.
Yeah, you can do 100 in and 100 out. Yeah. That's the same as the Anchor.
And then the USB Type-C in and out, and then a USB Type-A out, and a USB Type-C out as well. So there's 4 outs, to be honest, and 2 ins.
Yeah.
All right, okay. It looks quite nice, but it's expensive.
It's spookily the same shape as well as the Anchor one. It's like they've all copied each other. Or it's come out of the same factory and they just said, oh, Anchor have just done one of these. Bugger. Put a transparent case on ours. And we'll stick another 100 quid on the price.
Yeah. Well, Amazon are unveiling possibly some new Alexa-based game controls to I don't know, do stuff with your game whilst you're playing, because hitting a button on a controller to reload your gun isn't as handy as being able to say reload my gun. But they've typed up where there's a quote here that makes absolutely no sense to me. It says that you can ask in-game, you can use an in-game voice command such as swap to my best weapon. which doesn't make any sense to me as well. Having played a game at least once in my life, I understand that weapons have different attributes, and I think Doom is the best example where there isn't a best weapon. They're all very strong against different types of villains. So it's a stupid thing that they've put in there that obviously shows absolutely no understanding of games. They've also said that players will have access to Alexa features, such as controlling their smart home devices, setting timers, and accessing the weather by calling with utterances like, turn on the living room light. So you can access the weather by calling, turn on the living room light. Now, I don't use Alexa terribly often, but that sounds a bit stupid. And I know I use my Google Home. If I tell it to turn on the living room light, it turns on the living room light. If I want to access the weather, I ask it to access the weather. Does that make sense?
I don't quite get it. Is this a game controller or a home appliance controller? I thought it was supposed to be...
While you're playing the game, you'll be able to call these commands out, and it'll affect the game. I get that.
I get the thing about swap to my best weapon. Very kind of Star Trek, if you like. But turning lights on and off, surely that's another device, not a game controller.
It is, yeah. I think they're just trying to sort of tap in to try to appeal to gamers in the weirdest way. You can... I have things set up so that I have a movie mode. So whenever I'm sitting down to watch a movie, it'll turn on one particular light, turn out a couple of lights, and... Well, that's basically all it does. It puts
bring out the ice creams, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a movie mode, and you can do that with gaming as well, where you can ask it what the weather's like outside, because all gamers who are sitting down for a couple of hours of Call of Duty are concerned about whether or not it's raining outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they can have something to talk about, which means we could do this before we record a podcast. And get a weather update and then just relay it on to the listeners so that whenever they're listening to this on Wednesday, they'll be fully versed in what the weather was like in Northern Ireland and North Wales on Sunday past.
Yeah. So your conclusion about this game controller thingy is that it's a waste of space and...
This is the emergency broadcast system. Stand by for further information.
That was just really odd. The electricity just went off, and then everyone's outside wondering what's going on. And apparently some box on the railway line has blown up and taken half of the town out with it. And I looked up on the website using my phone, and they said that it was going to be fixed by 2:30, but actually it was fixed by about 1:20. So kudos to them, I suppose.
Wow, that's incredible. When you say it took half the town with it, does that mean like the buildings have been desecrated, or just the power's gone out?
No, the power's gone off. I did check with my mum, who lives the other side of the town, and they didn't have a power cut up there. So it was just one section of the town, which happened to include me. But yeah, it's back on now, and good for them. They did it quickly.
So Wales isn't a desolate wasteland, and we've got Mad Ted driving around on his moped.
No. It does. I mean, I was talking to the folks here just now, though, and it does make you realise how dependent you are on electricity and gas and water and internet and just everything. As soon as it's gone, what do you do? Yeah. I was actually scrabbling around trying to work out how to watch a film or a TV show from my MP4 backups, and even that was tricky because the battery in my laptop was half gone.
That's the whole thing about Plex as well, is you can't get a reliable connection with Plex, even though it's supposed to be home media server.
Exactly. So the Plex was out of it because the router was out of it because it couldn't talk to. And it took me back to the old days when I had my 2 terabyte SSD, my SanDisk thingy, plugged into the back of whatever I wanted to plug it into, including phones, and you could just use it on as a drive. And I thought, well, that I haven't got that anymore because I've relied on Plex because of you.
True. And whenever I lost my broadband last week, I had to go back and open up a case and lift a disc out and put it in.
Yeah.
But then I do that every week anyway because I'm old school.
But you did have electricity.
Yes, thankfully, yeah. Well, that's one thing to another. That's quite exciting, isn't it? Yeah, for those listeners, nothing seems to have happened other than me going kaboom.
Yeah.
All right.
We better rattle through the rest of this. We're running out of time.
We
now.
are, yeah, because I told my wife that I'd be out cutting the hedges by 2:00, and it's 28 minutes to 2. Right. So 28 minutes. Let's get this all done. Anchor have released a new type of headphone, Soundcore, at quite a hefty price actually. The A40s. 45s.
Yeah, they look really nice. We've had the Q 30, 35, and even 40, I think. The difference with these ones seem to be, yes, I'm sure they're going to be high tech and everything else, and even better, but they're $150, 139 quid in the UK, which puts them in a different kind of price bracket to those previous ones, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, you'd be expecting a huge increase in performance on these, whereas the Q30 to Q35, and I think even to the Q40, there wasn't much to justify actually making the leap. But this one, the Space Q45 as they're known, they must be hugely more satisfying.
I think the battery's better. You get, is it, how many hours of playback?
50.
Is it 40? 50. So 65 if you don't have the ANC Switched on. But yeah, they look nice. As I think we both appreciate the design of Soundcore headphones in the Q line, but yeah, I think it might be, the price might be pitched a bit too high.
Well, yeah, and there's a wee set of earbuds as well, which are the A40s that come in a little chargeable case as well. I'm quite interested in those because I'm having a few.
Oh yeah.
I used my Sennheisers to go up to Belfast on Friday night, and they were at 70% battery. And whenever I was getting the train back home again, they were dead. I don't know why. They must have been left on or something, but I didn't notice the connection. But they were dead on the way home, which was a bit of a pain. That's not the first time that's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be looking at the A40s then.
I had that the other day. I had my Marshall earbuds. Took it out of my ear and it stopped. The phone stopped playing, and I put the earbud. I was just using one of them, and I put it down on the side of the sofa. And then about an hour later, I realised that the phone was still connected to it, still playing, even though it had stopped. It decided it was going to connect itself up again and start playing again. So you have to be careful with that.
Yeah, gremlins in the machine. But I'd taken them both out and put them back in the case and closed the case. I thought that would cut everything off. But I had noticed that I had them the wrong way round as well. The left was in the right and the right was in the left. So perhaps they didn't actually disconnect because they weren't hooked up to the charge thing.
More testing needed.
True. All right, Corsair. They have a new gaming monitor that can bend as you wish, which is kind of a fun idea. It's a 45-inch.
Doesn't mind
bend.
Shall I try?
I don't know about that now. This is a bendable OLED, and I guess you could have it sort of straight and flat for work, and then curved for gaming.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why not? These panels, when you see them disassembled, it's obvious that the panels are quite flexible. I think that one of the modern ones. So why not let the frame be flexible too?
Yeah, but you don't actually change it. You don't flex it by your hand. There's a mechanism built into it. But there also appears to be a nice kind of USB dock at the base of it as well that you can hook things up and charge stuff over.
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, USB Type-C, HDMI, DisplayPort, USB Type-A as well.
Excellent. My Dell monitor had that, and this new posh one has not got it, which is a bit annoying. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah. It's a good big looking screen, I have to say. It'll probably cost a packet too. Corsair aren't the cheapest out there. Okay, Elon Musk is involved in the next story. Again, that's the second time we've mentioned him on this show, if memory serves, all the way back to when we started the show hours ago.
Yeah.
T-Mobile and SpaceX Starlink say that your current 5G phone, if you have one, will connect to satellites next year, which is kind of interesting. And that should help plug in the dead zones that you tend to get in between here and there. That would be fantastic, even if they could sort out the 4G as well, because it's dreadful in various places where you happen to be. Ted, are you going to start using this too to link up?
Well, the Starlink thing we spoke about earlier, as you say, and I can't afford it anyway. And it looks like to get in on this scheme, the pricing is going to be, well, they're not really saying what the pricing is, but it could be up to $65 a month. And it's America only, I think. But it's a really good, interesting idea, isn't it? So where there's no cellular connectivity in out of the backwaters and out of the way places, it auto switches over. You've got your T-Mobile contract, and it auto switches over to Starlink when it needs to. It's a fantastic idea, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and it reminds me of, was it Elon Musk's idea for a mobile phone? Wouldn't actually have a GSM modem in there, and it would just connect to Starlink that way and do everything through Starlink. We covered it on here some time ago.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, true.
Make it cheaper. Make it cheaper.
Oh, Elon will never do that. He's about to get sued by Twitter for everything that he's got, including his T-shirt collection. Okay, Rock Paper Shotgun posted an article, and a large amount of other people did as well at the start of the weekend, with a report that Amazon may be buying EA, the Electronic Arts gaming company.
EA Games.
Yes, but as it turns out that there's no actual bid. It's not true. It may be true going forward, but there's no actual official confirmation that this is a story. So
no, I think it's now been refuted as well.
Yeah.
I think that they're actually saying no, it wasn't true. Don't be so silly. Get back in your box.
Well, there is some truth to the fact that Amazon are currently looking to purchase a largish company and make a large acquisition of a large gaming company, but they're not saying who it is. So it could be rumour and speculation that it is EA, and we may find out in 6 months' time that it is EA, and they could buy it over. But of all the companies they could buy, this is the one that really needs buying, because it would be great to get EA to work differently than they do currently, because they seem to be all about microtransactions and that kind of thing, and just chucking out the same franchise over and over again with a slight facelift. Looking at you, FIFA.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, what we're fairly sure about is that it certainly isn't Nintendo.
Well, no.
Amazon are not buying Nintendo.
But you could start the rumour and get some traction.
Yeah. Japan's collapsing. Nintendo's being sold.
Could be. But there is one gaming company to keep an eye on, and that is a little company called Odroid, because they're doing the Go Ultra, and it's yet another of these little emulator-based gaming handhelds that you can take with you. And it's equipped with an Amlogic S922X chipset, which I'm sure you've all heard of, 2 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, and it's got a 5-inch display married with a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, meaning that your gaming on the go is going to be quite powerful and running quite nicely. That's just ARM Cortex, 4 ARM Cortex CPU cores running at 2.2 gigahertz. So it's kind of a speedy little device, and it should be able to emulate PlayStation and PSP quite nicely. It might even be able to push PS2, maybe. But the price is looking to be about £111 or $111, which ain't bad, and it should be released in October of this year. It's got a nice kind of look to it as well. That it's a wee bit Switch. What's the other one? The one Switch Lite kind of configuration. So yeah.
Yeah. The one we spoke about last week had a 4.7-inch screen, and I really fancied that. This one's got a 5-inch screen, as you say it, so it's a little bit bigger. But even so, there's so many of these coming out, isn't there? And this is even cheaper than the one we spoke about last week. So yeah, great.
Well, it makes sense. There's a lot of with Raspberry Pi. There's a lot of distributes of Linux that work quite nicely and are sort of focused at emulators. So all you need to do is put the hardware together, and then you can dump that distro of Linux onto it, and it should just work.
Brilliant.
Go and source the games yourself.
Fiendish.
Yeah. I like them, but I still haven't bought one. I'm still surviving on my Evercade, the one that doesn't actually do what these all do. Yeah. Moving into Flop Your Trap about an app. The first one is something that I can't get to work, but maybe you, Ted, you've had more luck, is youtube.com/podcasts that allows you a live sort of exploration of podcasts that are on YouTube. Clicking it now.
The interesting thing about this is that they're obviously heading towards killing off yet another Google service, which is Google Podcasts, and it works perfectly well. And they're going to roll it in with YouTube instead, like they have with YouTube Music from Google Play Music, blah blah blah. And podcasts will be on the way out, and they're just rolling it in there, and podcasts will be a part of YouTube, and that will be the end of it. So no doubt it will be less functional than it is now, and a bit rubbish, and it will take a load of time to sort out. And then when everyone's hacked off with it, they'll decide to put it out again to an independent application. And you know what Google are like. No, I don't. I haven't seen that yet. I think it's something that's coming, and probably to America first in the usual way. And so watch this space. But I do think that we'll look out for the announcement of the graveyarding of Google Podcasts.
Well, there's other things going on here as well. There have been reports in the past where YouTube have been looking into a way of being able to generate a video for your podcast, because I've looked into this too. I would like nothing more than be able to put this podcast out on the Tech Addicts channel without all of the work that goes along with it, because it's a very hard thing to do, and having to spend the rest of the day rendering a video of a 2-hour podcast, as we tend to do, would be mind-numbing, and I'd probably not live to see the next day. But
I think you would. Don't you? I looked into this once. Do you not just have to save it as an MP4, and then it'll upload, and you put a placeholder picture in the way, and then that's it? Well, obviously you've looked into it more than I have.
Well, you can do that, but then that's a very lazy way to do it. I'd like to give someone something to look at, even if it's just like a graphic equalizer of our voices as it goes along.
Okay.
And I've seen you can do that with various online sources, but it costs money, and it's limited to the amount you can do. The longer the podcast, the more you have to pay. And I'll reiterate, to our podcast, I'm not going to remortgage my house to do that. But I would like to do it. And if you go onto YouTube Music, if they don't have a song available in audio version, you can actually go and get the music video from YouTube and then play the music directly from that, and it'll play. So it does make sense to kind of bring it all in, and especially if they've got some kind of technology to be able to create a visualization of the technology that we're talking about. Imagine if Google Images was to be linked into that as well, and you and I are talking about something important, and it would just start showing you imagery. If we were to talk about James Bond girls' bottoms, then you could start seeing, pick out those keywords, and you would start seeing pictures of Jane Seymour and Barbara Bach appearing on the YouTube visualization.
Ana de Armas.
Yes, that's true as well. Or if we were to talk about HTC phones, it could start playing little retrospectives of various HTC phones that it just happens to bring up from Google Images, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. It seems to just always be in an evolutionary kind of... All of Google stuff just seems to be an evolution the whole time, doesn't it? It's always being moulded and changed, and nothing is ever static for very long. So you've got to just keep up with the back.
True. But we'll see going forward. We'll keep an eye on it. And if you're ever listening to this podcast on YouTube, then something significant has happened, and you probably already know about it. Yeah. Something significant has happened to Microsoft Edge because it's now regarded as more bloated than Google Chrome. It's based off of Chromium. So they're the same kind of thing, just with different features. And Microsoft like to pepper in their own flavour to their web browser, adding in, well, there's one word I can think of, and it rhymes with hit. They just pepper it in that. You can get a loan through Microsoft Edge. There's games where you can play 100+ popular free games, right? Or you could just download Chrome and use it instead and set it up the way you want to. Ted, what do you think of this?
Yeah, visual search features, blah, blah, blah. There's all sorts of stuff that they've, as you quite rightly say, they've peppered into it. It didn't start off bloated.
No.
And they're calling it future creep. Sorry, feature creep.
Oh, right, okay.
And feature creep, apparently, is what it's all about. It's moving. It starts off great, and they just try to make it better and better and better in the ways you just described, and it ends up just being a bloated mess. So it's a shame, really, because you used to quite like Edge, didn't you?
I did. I migrated to it for, it must have been about 6 months, maybe I used it for, and I did realise the benefits of it, but then I started missing things that were being installed in Chrome, so I went back over to Chrome, and it's better the devil you know.
Yeah, definitely. And they've also tried to copy Google with this sidebar thingy. So Edge is introducing this sidebar, but it's not the sidebar in the same way as Google are doing. It's a link to all their services. So you know what Google's doing with Gmail? On the right-hand side, you get this list of links to all the other applications. Very similar to that, except it's all the Microsoft applications, Word and Outlook and whatever else you want to use, directly in the browser. And you can use them when it rolls out directly in the browser. You don't need to launch the app. They just work in the browser. So, web-based applications, effectively.
Well, yeah, that's it. Obviously it's going to be more difficult as well, because I hate the idea of what Microsoft does behind the scenes, where you might have a couple of different accounts and certain things are available to various different accounts. Whenever you've got Enterprise or Office is registered to one address, you could have Family Office, you've got Enterprise Office and that sort of thing. So I always had a problem with that whenever I did register it, and then I was using Outlook, and I had an email address that was kind of POP3, and I'd want to be able to remember an email or stick it onto my to-do list or something like that and have it come back and remind me about it later on, but it wasn't compatible with that email address because I had registered my Outlook address as the one for the Microsoft Office family thing, and it was like, how complicated can you make things? I'd hate to think that that's going to come into Microsoft Edge as well. Oh, you can't save this bookmark or to OneNote because it's not registered with that particular email address you happen to be using, and you'll need to switch across to a different type of account to be able to send it into to OneNote.
Yeah, it's all part of the same thing, isn't it? The feature creep, and one bit by bit, it's just going to get more and more bloated the more they do with it, and moving it away from the core Chrome clean experience that it was when it started. The same is true of Google, though. Google do the same, really. They
do absolutely. There's an ice cream van outside the house currently. I don't know if you can hear that.
Nice. Ooh, fancy ice cream.
Yes. Hoping my wife is going to bring me home a couple of ice creams as well. That'd be great too. It's just it's getting hotter here. I think it's 21 degrees now, so it's gone up a degree.
Oh dear.
Okay, there's been a couple of data breaches in this last week, and that is with Plex and LastPass, which is a very concerning one, actually, because LastPass is one of those companies that stores all of your passwords. The last thing you need is your password storage company being hacked and then having to go and change all of your passwords. But Plex was one that bothered me greatly during the week, because changing my password on that, it actually seems to have reset all of the apps across all the platforms that I use it on, and going into them, I have to now repersonalize my home screen to show the bits that I wanted it to show.
That's very annoying.
Maybe it's something in my settings that I've messed up, but yeah, they are assuring people that credit card information and payment detail has not been leaked, but they are urging anyone with a Plex pass or a Plex account actually just to change your password. Were you affected by this?
I didn't have a password. When I went in there to change my password, I was presented with a screen that said, "You never set a password." So I don't think I've been hacked. There's nothing really in there that is worth nicking from me, I don't think. But anyway, I did set a password because there wasn't one in there. So I don't know. The thing about the LastPass one is that they're more confident, though, that none of the data, the user data, has been affected at all. Only the database of information about, the actual customer, not drilled down into the LastPass information that's held by users about individual passwords. So I guess it's slightly different to the Plex thing.
Yeah. Well, it's reassuring to know that no one hacked into your Plex and watched your Best of Highway DVD that you ripped last week.
Yes.
Twitter could be ruling out. Well, they're going to be expanding their Spaces tab to be able to cover podcasts as well. Now, I was having a look at this morning to see whether or not we could do
podcasts being floated everywhere, isn't it?
Well, I always thought of this as an interesting idea, and having your phone recording in the background and some people can jump in and out and interact with you while you're trying to record the podcast. Spaces does seem like a pretty novel way to do that, and Twitter is linking on to the whole podcast thing that way. So we might be doing this in the future. I think it sounds like a pretty interesting way of doing things. But then as all the big companies start rolling things out, whenever YouTube starts implementing podcasts as well, you probably have to have the YouTube client running in the background, recording through your phone or whatever. If you're able to hook in some decent gear like we are using now to record this, it could end up upsetting the backup way of doing things that we are now relying on, given Ted's little incident earlier.
Where is Spaces? I'm looking at my...
I think you have to... Someone you follow has to have set up a space to start with.
I see.
Or else if you use the add to Twitter, there's the Spaces option, and then you can create your space, name your space, and record space.
I'll have to have a look at it if we're going to start using it.
Well,
I've never seen Spaces.
Yeah, I know a few people who do run Spaces as well. I've never actually sat and looked at one, but yeah, maybe we'll do that in the future. We'll have a play.
Yeah, indeed. We'll learn how to use Twitter together.
And finally, in a bit of an app update, Netflix have made some. Well, there's some information on the much speculated idea that they could charge money for a lower priced plan that would have advertising in it as well. And the latest belief is that Netflix may be charging between $7 and $9 per month for this new plan, which would be SD, I believe. But it would have up to 4 minutes of advertising per hour when you're streaming something. Now, if you compare that to a traditional television network in North America, that would be between 15 and 20 minutes. And I thought it was about 17. You have a 43-minute episode of a TV show, and then there's a couple of ad breaks thrown in there as well, so it pads out the rest of the 17 minutes. Here in the UK, if you have a look at the BBC, something like an episode of Top Gear would be 60 minutes long, but then if you watch the repeat on somewhere like Dave that has advertising in it, they'll have chopped out about 15 to 20 minutes worth of the show in order to be able to put in advertising. Yeah. Which is weird. But 4 minutes doesn't sound too bad, especially whenever you're paying a lower rate. But this is something that that would be variable as well, and I'm sure there's something in the contract there to say that during its lifespan, the 4 minutes may go up depending on the company's need to make more money.
So does this mean that my $5.99 standard single user thingy's going to be going up as well? I guess it will be, because these two ad supported tiers are more expensive by the looks of it than my basic one.
Well, I think $5 is the £6 one, so that standard definition one that you have will probably change to this, and then you'll have to pay maybe 10, or move up to maybe the $8.99 one to be able to get rid of the advertising, and then it's basically just moving everything up and bringing in a new bottom tier that has advertising in it, and you get to pay for that.
That's going to be the end of me and Netflix.
Oh, really? You wouldn't push it up a little higher?
No, I'm not paying. I don't see why I should, really. I've been paying them $5.99 a month for a long time, and mind you, I suppose the counter argument is that everything's going up, and why shouldn't Netflix prices go up? I don't know. I'll think about it.
Yeah, I'll pay anything to avoid advertising. I've told the story many times before, but having worked in America for a number of years, coming back and sitting down and watching something on the BBC and not having it interrupted by an advert for a full 60 minutes, or watching an entire movie start to finish without an advert in it, that was amazing. I loved that. And coming home in the early 2000s and just going, wow, I'm not interrupting my content, was worth paying the license for. So then I stopped paying the license and getting rid of the BBC and moved to Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, that's about that for the apps. Ted, what about the Chromebook corner? What's happening on Chromebooks?
Just a couple of really quick ones. The glanceable widgets that we talked about last week coming to Chromebook sometime soon. It hasn't even arrived on developer channel yet, but it will come eventually. They're going to add calendar support to that, as well as the at a glance stuff, which will be really good because the calendar will pop up on the right hand side. However, what you don't get is the at the moment the early builds are not including multiple calendars, which is a real pain, because all they're doing so far is your core calendar, your own events calendar. And I don't know about anyone else, but I use about 10 calendars in Google Calendars. Anyway, I'm sure they will bring that. So that's going to all be baked into the at-a-glance thing on the Chromebook's homepage. Sorry, not homepage, on the wallpaper page, the base page, whatever it's called. And secondly, you were talking about collections last week. Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to be, if you're using Chrome at the moment, if you move your mouse up to the URL bar on the right hand side, it's got share this page, and they're going to add a thingy into the share link to section. So instead of getting this stupid Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and WhatsApp, they're going to add in there collections. So it seems like they are going to be taking collections a bit more seriously, and perhaps refloat it as an option. But as usual with Google, you never know, do you? Have you since last week? Have you kind of used that a bit more or not?
No, I haven't. I really haven't touched it.
No.
Yeah, there's nothing there. I do like the share to cast, which is always useful. Yeah.
Yeah. I would quite like Pocket in there instead of having to have a Pocket extension to do the same job. But, everyone will have different things they want in there, wouldn't they?
Sorry. My wife's just reversed into the driveway and she's got out of the car. It's great being able to see my driveway right from here. And she's pointing at the hedge, talking to my son. His head just went down.
Hasn't he done it yet?
No, I think she's going, this is what we're doing for the rest of the day, which is this hedge, and he's just sulked. He was hoping to get in and onto the PlayStation or something like that, but no, he's going to be cutting the hedge with me. And he's walking very slowly toward the front door. Oh dear.
And you won't get your lunch until you've done it.
Well, that's a point actually. It's 2:00. That's past lunchtime.
Yeah.
All right, look, I'm going to take an executive decision here. And what was that?
Sorry, it was my. It's to do with the power cut. People checking up on me. Isn't it nice? People care about me.
Right. Meals on Wheels people just checking that you can turn your oven on. Good. Yeah, I'm going to take an executive decision here and skip Hark back. And it'll be there next week where we'll talk about something that I remember fondly.
Fair enough.
Okay, straight into the bargain basement then. So the first is over on Amazon. There's the Crucial P2. Now this is an SSD. It's a 1 terabyte version, but I think the whole range of them are particularly good value at the moment, and you'll be able to find something that is quite good looking for you. This is a 3D NAND setup as well, which is an NVMe PCIe Express M.2 drive. The 1 terabyte version is reduced in price down from £85 and 70p to £63. The 2 terabyte version, which is the one that I would choose to buy, but then not everyone's going to need that much space, is down from £66 and 30p to £116 and 99p. The 250 gigabyte version is £23. That's amazing. And then the 500 gigabyte version, which is nice for a wee laptop if you can do that sort of thing, is down to £37 and 99p. Terrific value for money on NVMEs there, and something that you really should consider sticking into your computer.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. The ACO 3108 mechanical gaming keyboard looks a nice little thing. Well, not a big thing actually, because it's a full-size one, and it comes with keycaps and all the rest of it, ready to go, and it's 65 quid instead of 80 quid. Cheap as chips.
That's nice, and it comes in various different colours, or is it just that one colour that's a funny? Well, it's a low price. No, they all seem to be down to £64 and 49p. Yeah,
very, very nice.
20% off. Are you going to buy one?
I keep threatening to, but I don't know. One day.
Oh, here I'm getting a sponsored ad in the middle of Amazon. Don't like that. My pie hole needs to be probably updated. Ooh. Next up is Logitech. They have a wee webcam that I quite fancied as well. This is the Logitech C920S. It's an HD professional webcam. It does 1080p, 30 frames per second. It has clear stereo audio, HD light correction, and a privacy shutter as well, which is very handy. And it's a full clip down type shutter. It's a bit of plastic, but I imagine you can take it off if you don't want it, which would be kind of funky. It's down in price from £85 to £50. So if you're doing all them Zoom meetings with your bosses and stuff like that, and you need to look a little better, then this is a good solution for you. I do quite like the idea of this.
Very good, yeah.
Webcams were difficult to get at one stage.
Were they?
They were, yeah. At the start of all home working and things like that, there was a bit of a run on webcams, and decent ones were hard to get.
I've forgotten all about that. What about a Western Digital SSD, 1 terabyte for 84 quid, and 2 terabytes for 152? Tell us all about why that's a good deal.
Well, they're the WD Black label, which a lot of people do prefer over the norm. These are a lot faster and sort of targeted at gaming. But, any SSD is really going to speed up your gaming as opposed to a typical spinning hard drive or a 2.5-inch SSD. But yeah, it's another lowering of the price on SSDs. Very, very welcome.
Yep, £12 off. There you go.
Sweet. Back to Logitech. And back to keyboards too. Ted, you'll probably quite like this one.
I've got one.
Oh, you do? Oh, you do?
Yeah,
That's right.
I've got one of those, yeah.
This is the Logitech K380. This is a multi-device wireless keyboard that works with Windows and Apple and iOS and Android TV and Apple TV and Chrome and blah, 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 blah. It's a compact layout. It's got little rounded buttons as well, a bit like an old typewriter-y type affair. And they're so good that even Ted Salmon bought one.
I've had it for years, and it's fantastic. I love it. And yes, it's a good price now. 25 quid is an absolute bargain.
Yeah.
It's quite compact. It's neat I've actually got a little kind of pouchy case with mine that you kind of can carry it with in a briefcase, and it's just a better experience than any fold-out keyboard, I think. And you can connect it to 3 different devices at the not simultaneously, but by the press of a button, switch between 3 devices. So you can have your phone in there and your laptop and your tablet or whatever you want. Yeah, it's a really good little keyboard.
24-month battery on this?
Yeah, because it doesn't do anything, does it? Apart from maintain a Bluetooth connection.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually. Bluetooth 3.0, that is. Yeah, and it works off 2 AAA batteries too.
Yeah, it's a great little keyboard. It really is. It's cracking. I should use mine more, but I mean, if I was on the road, I probably would. We're moving into the territory of micro SD cards now. The one that we spoke about it before, the Lexar one, was the 1 terabyte Lexar micro SD card was 139 quid. It's now 109 quid.
Wow.
And then on further investigation, I also discovered there's a SanDisk one, and they've dropped their prices to 114 quid, and there just seems to be loads of them. And you found one as well, haven't you?
I did, yeah, the Amazon Basics one as well, which it's not entirely clear who built it, is down from 143.99 to £93.59. So 1 terabyte of SD cardness in your phone is very cheap
quid. Wow. I had a look at that Amazon Basics one. I had a look at the reviews, and there wasn't actually very many reviews of the 1 terabyte version. But what there was, people were kind of saying, I was expecting the worst, and actually it's ever so good, and it's reliable, and it's fine. So yeah, it's probably made by Kingston or something, isn't it? And badged by Amazon. 93 quid.
Well, there is a bit of a speed
450 quid they started out at.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Well, that SanDisk you're talking about is 160 megabytes per second. The Lexar is 150 megabytes per second, and the read speed of the Amazon Basics one is 100 megabytes per second. So
right,
you are seeing a noticeable decrease there. But it's a V30 U3 1 terabyte micro SD XC drive.
Which means it's going to be absolutely fine for most things, except for video, like 4K video recording or whatever. But, for sticking in your phone as an extra storage for general use, or one of your devices, or a Nintendo or something, it's going to be absolutely fine, isn't it? I can't believe it's 93 quid.
Yeah.
It's just staggering.
Yeah, and the last one, I actually put this out on Twitter earlier in the week, and I noticed that you managed to nabble it as well and put it out on MeWe. I don't know if you saw me or I saw you, but I think it might have just been coincidence.
Yeah, we'll check the timestamps on that.
Well, I did actually at the time. I thought, you cheeky devil. And they were both at 1 hour ago.
Yeah, I did. I did see you put it on Twitter, but I do claim that I had it on MeWe first.
Oh, right.
But it's a fantastic speaker. The Soundcore Motion Plus, 30 watts of output for each one. The usual Soundcore stuff: bass up, extended bass, and blah blah blah. The equalizer via an app and all the rest of it. 12-hour playtime is not huge, not great, but I don't think this is designed particularly to be taken out and about. I've got 2 of these, and they just work brilliantly in tandem as stereo speakers, one each side of you, and they're ever so powerful. Really, really nice. Second only to the Marshalls, I think, and just really, really cheap. Currently, instead of about 90 quid, they're 65, so 66. So use my link, everyone, not his.
Go ahead, folks. And you have one of these either side of the bed, and Barry White playing over on frequently on a Saturday night, don't you?
They do work brilliantly in tandem, though, in stereo. Really, really well, and they're ever so loud and powerful and bassy.
Yeah.
But yeah, recommended highly.
Terrific. All right, well, that about brings us to the end. I'm going to go out and oil up the hedge cutters and get stuck into this darn hedge that I've been putting off for the entire summer and the neighbours have been complaining about. So I've got to do something about it now.
Yeah, don't cut through your cable again.
Oh, no. I've done that bit of hedge. I have to do the other side of the garden now, which is the bigger, thornier side. All right, well, we'll be in touch with you next week. Sorry about the smaller show or the shorter show. It's all to do with the Welsh power grid. If you want to blame anyone, blame them.
It's your Welsh.
Yeah. Give us a shout on Gareth at techaddicts.uk. You can also find us on Twitter as well, at techaddictsuk. And I'm on Twitter too, at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles. And I have my .com to go along with that, which contains links if you want to buy me a beer or a coffee or something like that, just to say, thanks, dude, for being
a dude.
Yeah, that dude, yeah.
I'm at tedsalmon.com. Links to all the MeWe groups, audio podcasts, the whole lot from there, tedsalmon.com. And if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do so at paypal.me/tedsalmon. Thank you so much. Sorry about all the chaos today.
No problem. It's nothing to do with you. We'll blame the Welsh grid. Take care now.
Bye.